Sorry about the short break, but it'll be worth it when we get to the beer at the end. Great. Okay. So. I'm going to now introduce Marija Bozinovska. We have the last couple of stragglers come through. I'd also encourage everyone to come to the front and let's make it a nice intimate space. The evening, the end of the day, let's get cozy with one another. Marija Bozinovska is an artist who explores links between social, computational, and organic architectures, working across audiovisual formats, installation, ephemeral mediums, and in live context. Her pieces probe notions of selfhood from subatomic level to network presence on a planetary scale and beyond. Grounded in a belief that a world making is an intrinsically collective process, MBJ regularly collaborates with researchers, programmers, holistic practitioners, and other artists. She has presented work at Abandoned Normal Devices, Transmedial, Sonic Acts Academy, and at Somerset House, where she holds a studio residency. I'll hand over to you. Big hand. The lights dimmed or off? Please. Is this it? So, from rational and intellectual, in this session we'll be moving into imaginative realms and into the liminal through an embodied practice. So the title is Interbeing, and it is an invitation to decolonize reality and awaken collective imagination. So the phrase interbeing was formulated by the Vietnamese monk Thich Nhat Hanh, and it posits an interdependence of all phenomena. Also, Thich Nhat Hanh was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize by Martin Luther King. So in the next 20 minutes, we'll be setting the foundations for some lucid dreaming through a grounding practice, followed by a reading. That's much better, thank you. Makes it more intimate. So let's start by arriving back together. So I would like to invite you that you leave aside what has kept you busy today and this week, and to bring your mind into your body. So make yourself as comfortable as you can in your seats or on your feet if you're standing, and even if you're working.
I also encourage you to lower your gaze, soften your eyelids, and to close your eyes if you're comfortable with it. Or simply look ahead of you some 3 feet. So this will aid us to reduce sensory input and to awaken our imaginative faculty. And now we bring our attention to our breathing. Feel where the air enters your body first. Around your nostrils. Or on your upper lip. Feel how each inhale the air becomes breath, and how with each exhale the breath becomes air again. The outer air becomes inner, cold as it enters, and the inner air becomes outer again, warm as it exits. Continuously each time anew. And through this repetitive, involuntary act of exchange which maintains life, we are recalling how through our breathing we engage in the carbon cycle. Terrestrial and oceanic photosynthetic organisms convert our exhales into oxygen. This fundamental chain of actions maintains the entire planet's metabolism. Our lungs contain the very same carbon that is exchanged between the global reservoirs, the atmosphere, the ocean, the terrestrial plant biomass, and the soil. Next, let's move our attention away from the air passage and into what's denser in and around our bodies. Leave the sounds in the background. Sense into the physicality. The contact with your seat. Feel the feet on the ground. And bring into your mind's eye the weight of your body and your skeleton within. The heaviness of your arms, the frame of your collarbones, your teeth and skull poised on top of your spine. All our bones are made up of the same constituent corals and seashells are composed of. The same building blocks are found in all organic cells, shared with all plants and animals. Carbon forms more compounds than all the other elements combined, and due to this bonding ability, it is known as the element of life. We are recalling an element which also makes up the Earth's crust, and to which one day our bodies will return to, together with other animals and plants, which feed microorganisms and end up in rock sediments. All present organic forms are made up from the same elements as the organic forms some 4 billion years ago, which are being burned as energy. The very same carbon which enables every single electrical impulse in our cells was discovered by the first human animal through fire. So we'll finish by revisiting into our mind's eye how all that which we know and that which we might not be able to comprehend first came into being from energy bursts. Carbon, like many elements, is made in stars. Accumulated clumps of hydrogen by gravity become stars by a tremendous inward pressure which triggers nuclear fusion, or protons and neutrons smashing together and fusing. This cosmic connection concludes our grounding practice. I'm hoping that our visceral explorations of carbon helped us to be reminded of a sense of awe and wonder. So for our second activity, you can open your eyes, or you don't have to. If you prefer to, you can leave them closed. Yes, for our second activity, we will refer to wisdom of indigenous cultures in making gifts and offerings. So I would invite you that we read an excerpt together from Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, a scientist and a professor of environmental biology and enrolled member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation. Danny, could I have the second, if you have? So the chapter is titled The Gift of Strawberries, and there are some, if I recollect correctly, there are some 5 paragraphs, and I will pass the phone around and the mic, if you could help me read together. So 1 paragraph each. Would you like to start?
Wild strawberries fit the definition of gift, but grocery store berries do not. It's the relationship between producer and consumer that changes everything. They were not meant to be sold, just given. Gifts cannot be made into someone else's capital.
The next strawberry.
That is the fundamental nature of gifts. They move and their value increases with the passage. The more something is shared, the greater its value becomes.
Indigenous people understood the value of the gift to be based in reciprocity and would be affronted if the gifts did not circulate back to them. Many of our ancient teachings counsel that whatever we have been given is supposed to be given away again.
From the viewpoint of private property economy, the gift is deemed to be free because we obtain it free of charge and no cost. But in the gift economy, gifts are not free. The essence of the gift is that it creates a set of relationships. The currency of a gift economy is, as its roots, reciprocity. Sorry. Wait. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for all your help. So, with a difficult word to pronounce, reciprocity, I also have the same problem. What do we give back in an act of reciprocity? So, following an urge for a distance from a scarcity mindset and expressing attitude, I have been interested in exploring devotional practices and making of offerings. So I will now pass around an offering. So everyone can have a look at it. So this offering is edible. It is a handmade chocolate confection infused with psychedelic plant extracts. So in line with the festival theme, it is shaped as a sun, complete with sunspots. It has a black core and it contains charcoal, besides other magical plant extracts. To microdose or macrodose our imagination and expand consciousness. So, making an offering is giving something away without any expectations. Made during devotional practices, offerings allude to a gift economy as an alternative to dominant systems of value exchange, be it economic or affective, in order to counteract the transactional nature of interpersonal relationships, which we have adopted as a social norm. So the ingredients of the edible activate embodied knowledge, an invitation to seed a nurturing worlding, and in spite of an extractivist neoliberal continuum.
Thank you so much, Marija. Thank you. So, our final presentation for this evening is an in-conversation with the collaborators of...
There's been a bit of a change, so now we're going to go outside and have a beer and a little break, and then we'll call you back in once we set up, and we're going to go straight into this section, and also a special performance by the Kingston Style of Red Orchestra, who have created a great atmosphere for us to end on. So we just need to have a little mini break for a second while we set up the program. Thank you.
hand back over to
no, it's
Farah's going to be
Bobby.
sharing. But in case you haven't already, please do go and vote. So there are many projects on the wall. There are 9 projects over here. I mean, obviously, I'm a little bit biased. But please do put your finger into the charcoal pot and vote. Because we're going to be looking at the votes at the end of the session.
I'm going to have such a great shift.
Thank you.
Now I've got used to it. I'm like,
Oh, is that?
people think I'm mad at work because I'm so very energetic, because I'm high when I'm working. I can't do the 10-hour, 11-hour shift without smoking. No.
You can't do that at the college.
I won't. I mean, it's not, if I'm, even when I was used to like go to the uni and that kind of stuff, I was just on there.
Who's the speakers?
Shall we get cracking? Thank you. Thank you everyone for sticking around and bearing with us during that little break. And the speakers, and we've got a couple of people joining us online.
I think you have to move. You can sit in the front if you want.
So thank you very much.
You can sit in the front if you want.
We'll get started, shall we? It's been a really, really great day, and this is the last presentation before we get to all of these brilliant and exciting looking performance.
Why is so many noise?
Our final presentation
Oh,
this
yeah.
evening is an in-conversation with the collaborators for this session. Open Curriculum by Susannah Haslam, Araceli Camargo, Megha Ralapati, Apex Zero, Charles Pryor, and Lou-Atessa Marcellin. Thank you. The Open Curriculum is an experimental alternative education project that is made up of 4 in-depth conversations between Susannah and Araceli, Megha, and Charles, whose work in different fields offer up multiple critical perspectives on the subjects of carbon, solidarity, and artwork. So I'll introduce Susannah first. Dr. Susannah Haslam teaches interdisciplinary humanities at the campus, all of the capacity to speak. I'm so sorry. Dr. Susannah Haslam teaches interdisciplinary humanities at the Royal College of Art in London and is an independent researcher. Between 2019 and 2021, she was Research Fellow with Teatro Mundi. Her current research navigates loving and equitable relationships between contemporary education and cultural institutions and infrastructures, queer and critical subjects, solidarities, pedagogies, practices and environments, tertiary level educational alternatives and expansions. Susannah works mostly in collaboration with others. Current collaborations are with Dan Evans, Lou-Atessa Araceli Camargo, Megha Ralapati, Apex Zero, and Charles Pryor, developing an open curriculum for the Sunlight Academy project. So a big hand for Susannah and thank you so much, Farah, and thank you to everybody today. Oh my goodness, I feel well overwhelmed this final session. I can thank you for this fabulous project. So, before we celebrate, first and foremost, I'd like to hand over to collaborators on the project to introduce themselves first, rather than moving to I wanted to sort of start off with creating a space where
voices were present, these speakers who have there's a friend collaborator from Chicago, so I'd actually hand over to Megha to introduce herself first, if you could please.
Yes, I'm happy to. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It works. Good. I'm so happy to be with you virtually. My name is Megha Ralapati. I am a writer, researcher, and art worker, and an organizational builder. I'm interested in new, existing, old models for art spaces and platforms for art and culture that are equitable and visionary. And I'm very happy to be part of this conversation.
Can you make my voice sound like hers? You were moving around. It's pretty good, actually. No, you're so my name is Ahmed. I'm an MC and a filmmaker. I work with Susannah, critical sessions, and he's one of the people here. Yeah, that's me.
Charles.
Hello. My name is I'm an artist and also a practicing agroecologist and a researcher in the field of climate change and urban agriculture. Lou.
I'm Lou, and I'm always have to be finance series, but I guess I'm an artist, someone who makes culture happen with other people. I work primarily with other people. That's the only way I work. Mainly because I'm too afraid to do anything by myself. So I find strengths in others, and that's it. Cool. Thank you. Our dear collaborator, Araceli Camargo, sadly can't be with us today, so I'm going to introduce Araceli, and Araceli has also very generously sent us a meditation to open up the conversation around the Reconfiguring of JPEGs. Is very generous, so it's lovely. So if you would want to read it, because So Araceli Camargo is a neuroscientist and health activist investigating the biological links between health and place. She works at Centric Lab, and Araceli is of Turtle Island descent and holds an MSc in cognitive neuroscience from King's College. She's written various pieces of literature regarding this phenomena through the open source digital library for industry practitioners and community organisers called Urban Health Council. Additionally, she has experience in creating digital tools to better understand how the places that we live can present a risk to health through the use of neuroscience and geospatial data through a local tool called Biological Inequity Index and Right to Know. So check those out. I'm going to hand over to Apex to just open our conversation up and read the meditation that Araceli is
A meditation for planet angst. Our planet has the wisdoms of millennium to move us out of this crisis. We must listen. Listen in quiet stillness. Still spaces, still mind, still heart. Our planet is abundant, cannot be destroyed. The moss, fungi, microbes, all the beings we ignore, forget, don't listen to. They will be here. They will start many lives over as they have done from the start. Our planet has multiple problem solvers, engineers, imaginations, wisdoms. They go beyond the human. They know what to do. They're already doing. do. Learn, listen, build your hope. Capitalism is not all-knowing. It's not even alive. It goes against the will and purpose of nature. So it will not survive. We may not see this collapse, but the generations in front of us will. 500 years ago, our ancestors were enslaved, thrown off ancestral land, murdered, kidnapped, yet they knew of liberation. They remembered the feeling of kinship. They passed this memory forward. This ensured the first part of our liberation. It is our turn to remember, to know, feel, listen, imagine liberation in our skin, mind, and spirit for the coming generations. Breathe, be present, listen.
Thank you very much, Apex, and thank you very much, Araceli, for your listening. Okay, so I don't usually read from notes, but because we're quite pressed for time, I wanted to just be jotting down some of the things that I wanted to make sure that we communicate about the project. So bear with me to move between just texting Megha and how technical that is. Thank you again for everyone to stay and hold on at this point. So for the next, 45 minutes or so, I was hoping that we could have an informal conversation about the open curriculum in the context of the Sunlight Project. I'm going to explain, introduce what it is, and we will reflect on it as a group. We'll reflect on it as a project within the Sunlight Project, and also the subjects that we're sort of encountering through the curriculum, and also the format. Okay, so we, Araceli, Megha, Apex, Charles, and Lou, and I have been working on developing what I called an open curriculum for the Sunlight Project. And the open curriculum essentially is an expanded climate literacy project, which Danny first approached me with the beginning of the year, which was like 7 years ago. So the open curriculum aims to essentially broaden access to broader publics and broader learners and workers to learning about subjects and ideas of carbon, solidarity and arts work in this kind of wider framework of the project. So in conversation, many wonderful, brilliant, enlightening, mind-blowing conversations with Danny, we sort of came to the subjects of carbon, solidarity and arts work as three pressing, live and entangled conversations between the broader social and political complex of the climate emergency. And this isn't to denigrate or reduce the pressing, live and entangled importance of learning about these subjects from an environmental or ecological perspective, from a scientific perspective for those of us who are already being placed within art. But to actively bring about those social and political perspectives twofold, to demonstrate the urgency of these perspectives, we need to pay much closer attention to them and to the living consequences of the climate effect on us and our community and our art as well in arts organisations. So here, really, questions of equity are most important. The curriculum is an equity building project about finding better ways to know, to feel, to be positioned in relation to the climate, specifically as arts workers and as arts educators, and as it also becomes increasingly clear that people in power in our governments and in our institutions are not working with the climate, but working at odds to it. So I think we see change in teaching and learning to relocate and situate sites of various and multiple sites of teaching and learning about the planet. And in my own experience in arts education, we often rely on principles of love, dialogue, confidence, and coherence as tenets to teach and learn through and with. Also, just to get us through the day, the term, and the year, as workloads compound with structural inequality. And so I wanted to bring these forward and put them to better work, which is rather ambitiously, but I believe wholeheartedly we will all agree that we can put to better work outside of institutional structures. So, literally and practically, the open curriculum is a series of 4 in-depth conversations on these subjects of carbon, solidarity, and art work, to better understand what they are experientially, rather than from top-down, numerical, statistically driven set of perspectives, to understand how people, how we are experiencing this within the context of the planet. So these subjects of carbon, etc., almost become proxies, metaphors, vehicles for us to learn and navigate these otherwise lofty, totally lofty, inaccessible, and sometimes quite abstract concepts from lived encounters. When you're thinking about what an experimental learning resource might look like, an alternative to manuals and handbooks and so on, it was really important to me to underwrite this project document differently as we goes financially and temporally education houses to schools, universities, etc. So to start totally differently from love, from dialogue, from confidence and experience, following what the amazing Megha Ralapati framed as working towards genuine, empathic learning encounters, which have to be about the heart and have to be about the bodies and about communities. And I think early on, Chanel touched on this learning, which is something that I'm repeatedly in kind of development. Chanel said that we cannot be unlearned. Really grateful that she said that. We cannot be unlearned. So if unlearning is part of the process or a necessary thing that we have to do on the go, etc., it is aimless in a way. It necessarily has to be aimless. We cannot be unlearned. And this approach is a lifelong commitment. And it also totally demonstrates the need to actually change the way that we understand and value learning if it is to be outside of the university. And this is opposed to just replicating those structures outside of the university and so on. So, to the actual mattering and stuff of this open curriculum as part of this project. Talk about the subject of carbon, solidarity and artworks, and I asked each of collaborators together, so Araceli, Megha, Apex, Charles, to essentially answer these questions: what is carbon, what is solidarity, in sort of a long and in-depth conversation process. And I invited Lou to translate those in-depth, long conversation dialogues to a sort of material spatial for the workshop, which she's hosting in the Conference Pryor, which she'll speak about that later. So these questions: what is carbon? What is solidarity? What is artwork? Across these questions and these answers, I'm also speaking to voice. So these questions: what is carbon? What is carbon? You, Megha, Araceli, Apex, Charles, you answered across universities. I very much love it here slightly. It has honestly been one of the most profound privileges to work with you. part of your world and your conversations and your ideas and your approaches to answering these questions. So in answer to what is carbon, you move through language and through epistemologies and histories. So there wasn't a problem, you talk about it, you articulated it as a red herring, a Trojan horse, and you said it was everything and anything, and everything encompassing, and it was also the soil. And so I just would like to, I'm a little bit of, we'll let's talk about carbon a bit, and we'll move into solidarity and so on. So if you're happy to sort of just move through a conversation together to sort of reflect on your answers to those questions, and perhaps you also to reflect on how you approach translating those answers. So just as a footnote, these dialogues, this curriculum, we spent hours speaking with one another. Those conversations were transcribed, recorded and transcribed, and then sort of edited and together to produce really illustrious dialect through which hang on the wall and all of which are accessible on the website. The idea really is that they exist in the world now for people to work with and to so stop talking. Back to this topic, so the question was, yes,
Well, I think we during our conversation, at least from my perspective, is that often the conversation I feel is like too orientated around carbon, to the extent that it just kind of becomes material and we stop thinking about its associations with building human life worlds, etc. For me, coming from, I did a Master of Science in Climate Change, and the way carbon is always spoken about is always through this quite like reductive lens of that kind of entails a kind of human progressive narrative that is purely something that needs to be removed and we must get it out of the atmosphere ASAP. I guess like to think kind of more through thinking about carbon and the soil and thinking about how carbon can be utilised rather than just purely being removed, but utilised in a way that it becomes like a beneficial element to living systems within the soil. So plants absorb carbon and then they release that and it provides nutrients to microbes, to the microbial world in the soil. So basically to kind of move beyond it just being purely reductive and that kind of progressive narrative and thinking more through the life worlds that carbon can inhabit, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe you think maybe.
Yes. I'm happy to contribute here. I think picking up from what you say, Charles, I feel I think my attention was drawn to this word, this term. It makes me think about nomenclature, language, jargon, and the kind of modes by which we understand the meanings of words and how, as they become deployed and utilized in different contexts, they kind of it can be a snowball rolling down a hill. They gather a lot of other kind of affinities and meanings. We think about our relationship to words and language, and I think Susannah shares some of our associations with this term, this very loaded word, carbon, Trojan horse, the red herring. I think I described it as a misnomer.
It's a word that means something, but there's myriad interpretations of what that can mean. So really, again, I'll sort of choose to talk around it by way of making a sort of definition for what carbon can mean. The way that words and terminologies can become shorthand for something. So as you say, Charles, it being kind of reduced to the problem, the sort of primary villain in a scenario, whereas I think highlighting the fact that we are in a relationship to this, we are in, since prior to all of us being on this planet, we've been in a relationship with it, carbon exists. So I think a bit of a shift in terms of understanding what our relationship is now, and just to introduce this idea of agency and activation and action, that we can choose to uplift a different kind of relationship with this idea, and really push it out of the realm of a buzzword, something that a shorthand, into a bit of a deeper, more intentional relationship with what it is. And I think I can speak more about this in terms of our work and our process going forward, but I think to expand the way we understand the notion of carbon, that we are in an evolving relationship to it, will help us then think about what a pathway might be toward reducing our footprint, for example, reducing it, what even that entails and looks like in a collective effort.
I'm trying to fit it in there. There's one thing that I know is a scientist, so I think I really resonate with what we both said, because I think that's what we spoke about, right? Was the fact that I don't know anything about what carbon is, and I think that's part of the problem. And I think the way it's just been described by you both, I feel like I'm a perfect example of the person who receives those misnomers or those ways of being, the way it's spoken and talked about, to the point that, yeah, I think the way it's demonstrated to me or explained to me is like it's the enemy, you know, as if you know, as if it doesn't have as much right to be here as anybody else, right? And if the enemy isn't, you know, as if the enemy isn't the people profiting from
its balance, right? Or you know, the cause of the problem, or whatever you want to describe it as. And so I think, I guess I became, through this process, I became very aware of my position within the machine that is built around creating this idea of carbon as the enemy. And I guess I'm more aware of my role in other systems of oppression or marginalization or capitalist expansion or neoliberal violence, or however you want to describe it, what I might think to be the true enemy, you know, colonialism, imperialism, you know, power, and having to create that connection from where I feel I am in this conversation to where I am in those other conversations. This conversation really helped to do that, and what I've read of the other pieces as well, yeah, just kind of gave me a platform to be able to rant the way I do to my wife at home about these things, because I don't understand what's going on. And I feel like I have a certain level of education and intelligence around understanding concepts. And if I don't understand what's going on, surely a lot of people don't understand what's going on. And one thing I know about not knowing what's going on is when you're in that position, it's easy to be led somewhere, especially when there's many voices shouting at you and telling you, and maybe the loudest one is the one that you should listen to, or the one that has the most qualifications, or the qualifications that are deemed to be the most important, are the one you should listen to, or the descendants to those, who again equally might not be in the position, right? And I think that is the thing, is that one thing I know for sure is that those who I consider to be the true enemy greatly benefit from confusion, because they are rarely confused. Right? They know exactly what they want to achieve a lot of the time. And when you have that common denominator, it's easier to move coherently. Whereas I feel like when your intention is to figure out something that's almost unfigure-outable, apart from when your culture is based on balance and living with nature, it wasn't a problem to figure out then. It's a problem to figure out now, and those who might have the power to solve it don't want to, you know. So yeah, that was my take on it.
Yeah, I feel exactly as I felt when I was asked to translate all these magnificent thoughts, which really stressed me out first, because I was like, there's so much incredible thinking behind, and lived experience. Like when I was listening to all your interviews, I had the privilege to listen to the raw material. It just strikes me how much vulnerable you were ready to be when you were talking about basically your life experience. And it was a lot of responsibility to be asked to translate this into a workshop. And I freaked out. And the way, I'm not going to talk about what is common, because I think you all talk about it way more better than I would. But the way I started to think about how can I translate your views is maybe how I try to relate it to my own experience. And I started to think about relationship, I guess. And I started to feel I was reading at the time something about slowness, being slow. And actually related to something I've experienced where, okay, initially I think I just wanted a free computer when I was a kid. So I went to this dyslexia test. Turned out I was not dyslexic, but I did all the exercise, the thing that they accused me. And the woman said, I've never seen this, but you just a little slow. And and at the time I was like, I dare you, what do you mean? So I don't know if I'm slow or I'm just really good at having built systems to support myself. But I'm going to embrace being slow, because I think it's something that actually has absolutely defined the way I interact with the world and with people. And I'm not very good at academia. I was always a terrible student for many reasons. But I always had this need to learn, and learning with people, with people who don't just teach me stuff, but show me how to do stuff, and are vulnerable, and I'm not interested in consuming their knowledge, but I'm interested in being with them and out of their knowledge forge my own knowledge. And I think there's a lot of things that for me linked to what a lot of things you were talking about in all your interviews, being with people, and I think you were talking about how you are being conditioned to behave in certain manners. I think that's the point I retain from your interview, how we are conditioned to perform a certain role in society. And Charles, you were talking about the
slowness and observation.
Slowness and observation, and the guilt and trees. And Megha was talking about communities and learning from doing and being with others. And Araceli talked about language, which really, resonated with me. Maybe because she was talking about it so clearly. So this is how I approach translating all your brilliant thoughts. It's through slowness, not in this this really privileged way of I'm just not gonna do anything, but more about how you shift your perception of interacting with someone, taking the time to know someone, or doing a
senses across all of your responses in conversation, but also just now, that you sort of moved into this kind of consideration of, certainly with what you were saying, like building, beginning to construct and kind of configure space for solidarity within a quite a speculative, imaginary space within the workshop, because you're asking everyone to kind of assume a position and so on. But between, I think, Megha, Apex, and Charles's responses, you've each kind of touched on, kind of almost kind of structural kind of elements that in your response to carbon, which are about kind of laying some form of ground for practices of solidarity. Now, we've got 10 minutes left and we've got 2 subjects to talk about. I'm going to ask everyone to maybe touch on this kind of, with a bit of focus on what solidarity is. I think, you mentioned explicitly just then that the workshop's called or termed or kind of framed after this idea that Araceli just sort of blew my mind with. And I'm sorry, I speak in lots of hyperbole and sort of romanticise it, but I really just feel completely floored by all of this. Araceli said that carbon is in pain as well. And on that note, I wonder whether maybe some of you can sort of speak to solidarity. I think, Megha, you spoke so beautifully about your understanding of solidarity being really rooted in this idea of debunking the idea that anything is normal and really actually to prioritise thinking through difference. We talked about kind of more than tolerating difference in workspaces specifically in our conversation. We talked about allyship and the kind of problematic or kind of tensions between allyship as sort of another misnomer in a way, and solidarity. We talked about doing something with others to achieve something that might not necessarily benefit the self and the individual. And we also talked about these really beautiful illustrative models of tree guilds and the wood wide web, which is essentially this incredible kind of reading of the mycelium networks and the communication systems between trees. Again. So who'd like to respond first? We've got 10 minutes.
Give it to Megha, because they just
Yeah.
Megha, what's
solidarity? Solidarity, in the kind of that concept of solidarity, I think about it as being both the horizon as well as the work itself. That those are 2 things that are in practice, that we can be in practice with, always seeking to expand solidarity between and among us, between our positions. It's a kind of being together, our vast differences, and those might be geographic. And I think this is a moment to think about culture. When I was thinking about carbon, solidarity, and arts work, the word culture, kind of the idea of it, for me, is interweaves among those words. And the practice that we're in, the sort of mundane and quotidian changes that we make in our own kind of art spaces are exactly what it is that can shift and transform our culture more broadly, and absolutely, I think, expand our own consciousness, because this work is operating on the level of the individual, it's operating on the level of the organization, and I think it operates on, citywide, and then that's kind of how we move through those. I think of them as sort of concentric rings until we keep expanding out, until we can understand ourselves in a relationship of collectivity with each other across our very real differences. So it's something that we slowly move toward, but that's a practice. I think I can wrap up both of my responses to solidarity and arts work. That's the practice of an artistic practice and a life practice that are interwoven with each other. So seeking to expand that sense of being with each other, which I think it can take a lifetime, but we can really see tangible, concrete shifts on these different levels.
I agree. I like that idea of the slow process of understanding self through others, and that sounds very contrary to kind of individualistic tenets of the current society, or the kind of current values values of the society that we're in. And just in the conversation, the things you were saying just then, and you in particular were saying, there's a strong tradition and tendency of those in power within this system that we have or are subjected to turn those who are in pain and who are suffering into the enemy. And so I think that, you know, this idea that the marginalized person is the violent one, right? The idea that black men in particular or African heritage women are inherently aggressive, right? When the violence has been done to us, right? The fact that we're painted as cannibals when there's a long history of demonstrating that Europeans would eat us, you know, from a long time, never mind recently, do you know what I mean? And so this constant need for those in power to take something that they have caused and then call it the enemy. I could understand how Carbon might be in pain. It wasn't a conscious, well, I don't know, it might be, you know what I mean? But from what my understanding is, it's not consciously trying to fuck everyone else up. Other beings are, you know? And so I think that idea of taking some time, not just having a knee-jerk reaction to propaganda or to, you know, one perspective, but to try to take a slow process of getting in solidarity with that which is painted as the enemy, to me makes a lot of sense, as opposed to, you know, don't drink out of a plastic bottle whilst flying on an aeroplane. Don't make no sense, you know?
I was just going to, in response to that, I feel kind of like a kind of an important part of what would be an alternative curriculum in relation to what you both were just saying, is that we need to learn to grieve. Like, we need to like come to terms with a dying planet, but not necessarily take the word dying so literally, at least for me, as like a coping mechanism, and I think it's potentially useful. I don't know, speak to my therapist. Is to kind of also kind of adapting to a certain extent. That there's kind of a new world order that's kind of being rebirthed. If that's not too science fiction. Yeah. Put the mic down.
Thank you. I've just been told we have 3 minutes left, so I want to ask you all in a sort of cacophony of, expecting a cacophony of responses. Actually, no, I'm not even going to ask. I'm not even subject matter looking at art's work and kind of labour and the sort of how the sort of intersections of private justice and social justice in relation to art spaces, art organising, etc., kind of come into play. In which case, who would like a final kind of set of reflections? I mean, Megha, Apex, Charles, Lou, you're here in your space, and go.
Dan, you should.
I'm so sorry, Megha, if you wanted to say something. I invited Susannah over a year ago to do a project about carbon communication because I felt that every carbon literacy manual that you've ever been given if you work in an arts organisation is pathetic. And I have no idea what this would end up looking like, and I want to say thank you to all of you because, okay, let me try after about 12 hours of being a carbon long. I need to say something. So, today, in an era of fake news, you're told if you have partial knowledge that you're that you're a lunatic, or I'm trying to think of the word, but you're told that you are a conspiracy theorist. And what this process taught me was that your reluctance to answer what is carbon, your half
partial knowledge of what I think carbon is to me through my learning showed me that your partial knowledge has brought you together to create this incredible network of collaborative learning. And I'm so excited to see where this will go next, because I want to ask every single person in Britain, what is carbon? What is solidarity? What is the work of art? And together we might start to actually answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's really lovely to hear you say that. I think also the key word term there is start, because this isn't about even beginning to think about completion. This isn't that. And I think sort of to try to sort of wrap up between both the discussions that we've had, the subjects of carbon, solidarity, etc., and also the kind of nature of this as a sort of an experimental learning thing. It demonstrates totally one thing and nothing else, that this is just how it is, right? How do we live with? I think we going through the stuff that we were talking about around. I can't remember. I think it was solidarity, and you're talking about the tree guild, and it actually really important to kind of understand how trees communicate with each other. Really, why are we not? Why don't I know that? Why am I 34 and I don't know that they communicate? 2, because I'd love to go and look at them on Saturdays or whatever. I don't know anything about them. But what I think I said something in response.
Observation.
Yeah, but in addition to that, also just like I can't live without knowing that.
No, sure.
And I think that comes back to what you were saying about beginning to kind of ask these questions. Everyone needs to respond. It's easy. Broad brushstrokes terms. This is the beginning. Well, I hope it is. I've committed to it. It's been just a privilege to be part of this project, this wider project, but to speak to all 4 or 5 of you and to hold this mind-blowing space. Thank you so much. It's changed everything for me, actually.
Thank you so much, and that was a super interesting conversation. I really enjoyed listening to that. Thank you to Susannah, thank you to all my speakers, thank you to Megha who's on Zoom, and thank you to everyone who's been with us today on the live stream as well. I'm going to hand back to Danny, and I think we should all give Danny a round of applause.
Thank you so much, Farah, for just the skillful chairing at the end of the day, and all of the changes, and good luck for next week, your own massive project. So please talk to Farah if you want to know more. Also, thank you so much to you all, the speakers here, for changing your plans and being later. And also thank you so much to the audience. It's been such a long day, but such an amazing day. I'm so grateful. Thank you again to the Stanley Picker team, and all of the people that are here doing the live stream, that have been helping me and everyone else make this project happen. It's been pretty overwhelming and incredible. I have a million other people to thank, and probably a million other things to say. We now close the gallery for 3 weeks, and the whole point of that is that we wanted to give more than we take. So Stanley Picker, in collaboration with a number of different local community organisations based in Kingston, will be running workshops, talks, events. They'll be just go and talk to them, come and see them, make those connections. At the end of the month, we'll be publishing the plan online. Please use it to have your own conversations in your own work. Apparently we have a voting system. I'm going to hand over to Cecilia to give us the results. And then we're going to have the most incredible Kingston Orchestra, Stylophone Orchestra, who have a preview of a Brian Eno song. So yay.
most urgent area, that standing in the gallery is going to prioritise for the next year. So everyone go and vote. Put your finger into the charcoal and vote. I will give you, don't vote twice. I mean, maybe you can vote twice. So it's very exciting. Alright, are we ready? Go on. Hey? Oh yeah, I know exactly, because I'm a trade unionist, so also I'm always trying to get people to vote. So once you finish voting, I've just been told that I'm on the clock, so I need to speed it up. And can you, once you finish voting, then so I can see the screen, and we are going to